God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea,
second tower.
though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling, will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge.
Despite the tragic events of September the 11th, the foundations of our free society remain sound, and I am confident that we will recover and prosper as we have in the past.
They took down the symbols, the financial symbols of America, the twin towers of the world trade.
Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed.
Overall, the U.S. economy appears likely to expand at a moderate pace over the second half of 2007, with growth then strengthening a bit in 2008 to a rate close to the economy's underlying trend.
Banks still have plenty of big guns to fire. They'll fire them when necessary. The worst is over.
Good evening. This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed. As uncertainty has grown, many banks have restricted lending. Credit markets have frozen, and families and businesses have found it harder to borrow money. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis, and the federal government is responding with decisive action to prevent major investors from intentionally driving down stocks for their own personal gain.
On Wall Street, the stock market shot up again on Wednesday, hovering around 10,000 after the giant bank JP Morgan Chase posted its highest profits since the subprime mortgage market collapse. JP Morgan, America's second biggest bank, made $3.59 billion in profit in the 3 months to September, benefiting from a surge in investment banking, which saw off higher losses elsewhere, particularly in consumer loans.
There are a number of different things that you could do early pertaining to executive orders.
Right.
One of them is to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Another is to change interrogation methods that are used by U.S. troops. Are those things that you plan to take early action on?
Yes. I have said repeatedly that I intend to close Guantanamo, and I will follow through on that. I've said repeatedly that America doesn't torture, and I'm going to make sure that we don't torture. Those are part and parcel of an effort to regain America's moral stature in the world. First executive order that we are signing by the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, in order to effect the appropriate disposition of individuals currently detained by the Department of Defense at Guantanamo, and promptly to close the detention facility at Guantanamo consistent with the national security and foreign policy interests of the United States and the interests of justice. I hereby order. And we then provide the process whereby Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now. We will be, is there a separate executive order, Greg, with respect to how we're going to dispose of the detainees? Is that written? We will be setting up a process whereby this is going to be taking place. The individuals who are standing behind me represent flag officers who came to both Joe and myself and all the candidates and made a passionate plea that we restore the standards of due process and the core constitutional values that have made this country great, even in the midst of war, even in dealing with terrorism. They made an extraordinary impression on me. They are outstanding Americans who have fought and defended this country, and for them to fight on behalf of our constitutional ideals and values, I think is exceptional, so I wanted to make sure that they were here to witness the signing of this executive order. there we go.
Congressman Paul, you say that we should cut off all foreign aid to the Middle East and, quote, let them take care of themselves. You say the prison at Guantanamo should be closed, that the detainees there have not been given due process. Governor Pawlenty said a couple of months ago that bullies respect strength, not weakness. Is Governor Pawlenty wrong?
Well, I think strength is good, but you have to have strength in doing the right things. I think secret military prisons, keeping people there for years and years without due process, is not a characteristic of a republic that believes in freedom. It is just not the process. It's more typical of an authoritarian government to have secret prisons. So therefore, I don't think it serves our purpose. We have tried nearly 300 suspects in civilian courts, and hundreds of them have been convicted and put away. So why are we afraid of openness? Why do we have to move in the direction of giving up the right of habeas corpus, which someday, if we're not careful, will affect American citizens? We should treat people the way we think we might be treated under dire circumstances. And our dire circumstances are moving right along because we may have real trouble in this country and we may be subject to the same type of treatment. So we do not need secret prisons, nor do we need the torture that goes on in these secret military prisons.
I want to follow up on...
What we have to do is construct a country. There's nothing about it because it's all rigged. I mean, the whole conversation is rigged. The fact that we don't get to a discussion before the break about what we're going to do in the lame duck, it's just rigged. This stuff's rigged.
What is your profession? I'm a computer programmer. Would you please speak into the microphone so the audience can hear your testimony? I'm a computer programmer. Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections? Yes. How do you know that to be the case? Because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype for President Congressman Tom Feeney at the company I work for in Oviedo, Florida, that did just that. And when you say did just that, it would rig an election? It would flip the vote 51-49 with whoever you wanted it to go to and whichever race you wanted to win. And would that program that you designed be something that elections officials that might be on county boards of elections could detect? They'd never see it. Mister, would you answer that question once again? They would never see it. So how would such a program, a secret program that fixes the election, how could it be detected? You would have to view it either in the source code, or you'd have to have a receipt and then count the hard paper against the actual vote total. Other than that, you won't see it. You have an opinion whether or not the Ohio election, presidential election, was hacked? Yes, I would say it was. I mean, if you have exit polling data that is significantly off from the vote, then it's probably hacked. And your testimony is under oath? Yes, sir. And the testimony you've given is true? Yes, sir. Thank you.
We have a thermal polyvinyl double wide, so we still feel more privileged than the others. We had a dinner party last week. The Fontaines came over, and Tiffany Trubley brought some wine she made from some old wine, and it was nothing fancy, just some, hors d'oeuvres, some downgraded caviar, and our cat.